As we celebrate our 20th year, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the Physician's Oath ceremony of the 21st class of the Medical School for International Health. Allow me to introduce our honoured guests. Professor Steve Rosen, Vice President of Ben-Gurion University. Perhaps you'd like to stand up. Professor Chaim Hames, Rector of Ben-Gurion University of the Negev. Professor Doron Zagier, Vice Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences. Director of the Medical School for International Health, Professor Mark Clarfield. And our distinguished guest of honour, alumnus of the class of 2003, Dr. Patrick O'Connor. Honoured guests, faculty members, colleagues from our collaborative global health institutions, students, family and friends here in Beersheba, as well as all of the colleagues and friends who have made this effort to be with us for our 20th anniversary celebrations. Thank you all for honouring us with your presence. I'd like to invite the Vice President of Ben-Gurion University to say a few words, Professor Steve Rosen.
Students, colleagues, friends, distinguished guests, I feel especially privileged to welcome you this evening to the White Coat ceremony for the incoming class of the Medical School for International Health. You are a special group coming to a very special program in a very special university. In choosing to come to Ben-Gurion University Medical School for International Health, you've chosen to follow ideals and dreams of a better world, of the practice of medicine in places where perhaps medicine is difficult, but all the more needed. You have come to a small city on the edge of a desert in a foreign country, to a university which strives to achieve excellence in research and teaching, but also strives to better humankind through its social commitments and action. I deeply admire you for this choice. You are inspiring. And I have to add here, Mark asked me to give an inspiring speech, but I don't have to. You are inspiring. 2 years ago, I had the strange fortune of having a gall boulder removed from my digestive tract, along with the gallbladder. I'm serious, the nurses referred to it as a gall boulder. It was very large. I was pretty ill. A free vacation in Soroka for 2 weeks. One of the physicians, unfortunately he's on sabbatical this year because I would have liked to have reconnected, asked me if I would serve as a guinea pig for your predecessors, for the MSIH students. Here was a sick person who spoke native English, and would I be willing to serve as a test case for 2 groups of 20 students? Okay, imagine this. I'm lying in the bed. I'm very ill. They haven't taken out the gallbladder with pancreatitis yet. Zvi, the physician, is standing by me, and 10 students from all over the world. This happened twice, 2 groups. As Zvi guides the students through the diagnosis, asking them to identify, I also have an appendix scar. Where's the appendix scar? What kind of a scar is it? Feel his stomach. What is wrong with him? Talk to him. Ask him where it hurts. How does it hurt? And of course, by that time, I hadn't eaten in 8 days, not even glucose, so I was actually feeling no pain. The students, your counterparts from 2 years ago, were simply great. We cracked jokes back and forth. I quizzed them on on what was wrong. They learned. The point here is that actually, for me, not only was it really kind of fun and kind of broke the monotony of being in a hospital bed for 2 weeks, it was a privilege for me to be a part of their learning experience. It was great. It is a privilege for me to welcome you to the Medical School for International Health. Thank you.
I'd like to invite BGU's new rector, Professor Chaim Hames, to say a few words.
Professor Steve Rosen, Vice President of the University, Professor Doron Zagar, Vice Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences, our distinguished guest lecturer, Dr. Patrick O'Connor from the World Health Organization, colleagues and administration, students and their families, guests and friends, shalom and welcome. Thanks to Hollywood and popular literature, primum non nocere, first, do no harm, is probably the most well-known phrase of the Hippocratic Oath. The only problem with that is that the phrase does not appear in the original, or at least in the earliest surviving version, dating to around 275 AD. It is also unclear when the oath was taken, whether at the start of medical studies or at the end, who actually introduced it and for whom. However, whether we swear by Apollo the physician and Asclepius and Hygeia and Panacea and all the gods and goddesses as my witnesses, as in the original, or not, the oath sets out a code of ethical behavior between master and pupil, doctor and patient, a contract to be upheld and lived to. The Medical School for International Health here at Ben-Gurion University of the Negev is celebrating the start of its 21st class and is also saying farewell and thank you to Professor Mark Clarefield, who has been one of the mainstays and driving forces behind making this program one of the most prestigious and unique ways of studying medicine. This program puts an emphasis on training doctors who will not only be excellent physicians and caregivers, but will also have a strong sense of social responsibility and high ethical standards. The best medical treatment should be available to all, whether poor or rich, black or white. And you, the class of 2022, are taking on an enormous challenge and responsibility. The developed world is moving in an opposite direction to the one we hope to inculcate in you and encourage you to embrace. The 21st century, with all its technological advances, places the individual in the center rather than the community, and we tend to judge people first and foremost by their appearance. Our compassion and tolerance for people different from us is constantly challenged by politicians, policymakers, by global companies seeking to increase their bottom line, social media, and success is measured primarily by the size of one's bank account. Ben-Gurion University of the Negev puts great emphasis on contributing to society in research, in teaching, and in outreach far and near. Students go to Africa in order to help alleviate poverty, and researchers try to provide solutions to water scarcity and food shortages through groundbreaking agricultural techniques. The Faculty of Health Sciences, together with Soroka University Medical Center, work continuously to improve health conditions of the Bedouin communities in the Negev. By becoming part of the BGU community, you are embracing our DNA and will become our emissaries, helping to improve the quality of life on this planet. As you embark on your long and arduous journey to become doctors and hopefully making the world a better place, I call on you to remember the words of the famous 12th century Jewish physician and philosopher Maimonides. Keep far from me the delusion that I can accomplish all things. Give me the strength, the will, and the opportunity to amplify my knowledge more and more. Today, I can disclose things in my knowledge which yesterday I would not yet have dreamt of. For the art is great, but the human mind presses on untiringly. I wish you all the best.
I would like to call upon Professor Doron Zagar of the Faculty of Health Sciences to address the audience.
Distinguished leadership of Ben-Gurion University, distinguished guests from abroad, colleagues, friends, and most importantly, students. This ceremony marks the introduction of our first year medical students of MSIH to the world of medicine. By taking the physician's oath, you commit yourselves to lifelong dedication to comfort and cure the sick, to be there for them, regardless of who they might be, and to do that with compassion and professionalism. The coming decades in which you will become doctors will witness an unprecedented revolution in the practice of medicine. Medicine will be transformed in ways we can only start to imagine. And during your professional careers, so much of what you will learn here will become obsolete. Mobile health is changing the way patients are monitoring their health parameters and their awareness of them. Applications will be able to make specific diagnoses based on monitored parameters and alert physicians. Telemedicine allows an ophthalmologist or a dermatologist in India to manage a patient in a rural area of Canada. For quite some time now, patients with cardiac pacemakers no longer need to go to the clinic to have their devices routinely checked. This is done from the comfort of their bedroom by remote monitoring. Genome-wide screening will allow physicians to quickly identify patients who are at risk for certain diseases. It will distinguish those who respond well to certain medications or experience side effects. Our current trial and error approach to drug therapy will become a thing of the past. Important medical professions, such as radiology and pathology, will face profound challenges as artificial intelligence allows automatic interpretation of images. When I was in medical school, I could not imagine the exciting things we are doing today. Progress is exponential, so I do not venture to be able to imagine what medicine will look like 25 years from now. I know it will be amazing. Nevertheless, no matter how fast technology will take you, one thing will remain unchanged. The patient will come to you for advice, comfort, reassurance, and professional care. The physician might be replaced by machines for many minor conditions, such as skin rash, a cold, a minor trauma, etc. But patients with complex, multiple, and serious conditions will want you to see them and touch them. When you see them, you will often realize how much you understand about their condition. You know the etiology, the pathophysiology, and the prognosis of their condition. Please remember, your patient who presents with abdominal pain doesn't care much about pathophysiology and enzymatic pathways. You know them, they don't care about it. They want their pain to go away. Your interaction with patients is about them, not about you. Put yourselves in their shoes. Try to see what they need and look for, and do it compassionately. Patients want you to be kind to them, no less than to cure them. To be effective, you need to know your patient. William Osler said that a good physician needs to know not only which disease the patient has, but also which patient the disease has. As you start your clinical education, let me quote a few points of advice given to young physicians by my good friend and colleague Dr. Joe Alpert, who is editor-in-chief of the American Journal of Medicine. Point number 1. Common things occur commonly. You will often be drawn to make the diagnosis of some rare condition you read about. It would be exciting to diagnose such a rare disease. It will make you proud. But remember, rare things are rare. What's common is common. You need to know the relative frequencies of diseases. Point number 2. Common sense is not so common. That's Voltaire. In patient care, use your common sense at least as much as you use your knowledge. Often it will lead you to the best results. Point number 3, the less a procedure or an intervention is indicated, the more harmful it tends to be. Weigh carefully each drug and intervention you consider. They all have side effects, which will be even more unfortunate if incurred for no good reason. Point number 4, listen carefully and patiently to your patients. Sometimes they have various strange ways to give you the vital information you need. And point number 5, practicing medicine requires equal doses of hard work, kindness, and honesty. Use them all to the same extent. Always remember them all. This ceremony is the last one, led by Professor Mark Larfield, who's been leading MSIH for so many years in the most effective, professional, thoughtful, and kind way. And I would like to thank Mark in the name of Dean Katz, myself, and everybody in this faculty for his fantastic, outstanding service for so many years, and welcome Professor Alan Jotkovitz, who we are all certain will do a great job in his own unique way. Thank you very much, Mark. With that, I would like to wish you all the greatest success in the road ahead. It will be difficult but rewarding. You will give your utmost, but you will receive immeasurable satisfaction and gratitude. Good luck to you all.
Thank you, Professor Zager. Professor Clarfield.
Thank you. Thanks to you all. Welcome. Our honored guests and from the university, and our honored guests from abroad. We have some very interesting people from very interesting places visiting us this year as a special event. And of course, to you, the students, for whom this whole ceremony is dedicated. It's your ceremony, of course, but you may know, and certainly some of the people in the audience may not know, this is the end of a cycle of celebrations and meetings and get-togethers that have gone on all year celebrating our 20th anniversary. So you're a very special class beyond how special you are as people, because you're the incoming class of the 20th year, and that's a big deal for us and for you. You've picked a great profession. It's the best. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing to devote your life to. I've never for a moment regretted choosing to be a doctor. I've had moments of difficulty at the time, but I've never regretted it. And you've picked a great medical school too. As Professor Jodkowitz likes to call it, it's a boutique medical school. I mentioned that the other day, and it really is. And you've picked a great medical school. You'll enjoy it. I know you will. I want to thank you again for picking us. I know I've forgotten someone in thanking, and I thank that person or those people for forgiving me for forgetting them. You can't ever do the right thing in this business, so forgive me, please. I just have to give a caveat. Medicine is a 24/7 job, and you guys, even though you feel you don't know very much, you're already doctors. If someone drops in front of you in a supermarket, you're going to go to them. It never goes away, and it never goes away for me either. An hour ago, I got an email from Agi Golan, who is our neonatologist, and said she really wants to be here, and she planned to, but she had to take a sick kid to transfer to another hospital, so she'd be late. So I wrote her back, Aggie, we'll miss you, but that's being a doctor. And a half an hour ago, I got a very concerned WhatsApp call from a first-degree relative because her husband just got taken to the emergency room in Toronto half an hour ago, first-degree relatives. So I said, even though I'm in charge of this ceremony tonight and I have to be here, if you need me, if it can wait till the end of the ceremony, great. If it can't, then buzz me. So if I stand up and leave in the middle of Patrick's talk, it's not because I don't like what he's saying. I really have to, I promised them that if they needed me, I'll come out. So please forgive me, but that's the profession you just entered. You just have to tell people you're leaving why you're leaving so they don't get upset. Normally I'm in charge of this ceremony, but tonight I'm not, because I have the great privilege and pleasure of handing the baton over to my friend and colleague, Professor Alan Jodkowitz, who's going to be taking over very shortly. Those of you who know him know what a wonderful person he is. He's going to be a great director of this school. He's a very intelligent person. He's extremely well trained. He went to a wonderful medical school. He's a very kind and ethical and patient person. And he's a pretty good administrator too. So I have the fullest confidence that I'm handing over this school in good shape to a wonderful successor. So I'm going to thank you all. I'm going to be here tonight, and I congratulate Professor Alan Jodkowitz on taking over from me.
Okay, really nice to meet you. Distinguished guests from Ben-Gurion and distinguished guests from abroad, and of course students, welcome to your ceremony, your physician's oath ceremony. In talking to some of you over the last couple of months, I got the impression that some of you were told by friends, colleagues, not to become doctors. Why become a doctor in 2018? I don't know. I think that holds true what you guys told me, for bureaucratic reasons, financial reasons, all the reasons in the world, but I don't buy that excuse. I think that you have a privilege and a gift sitting in the place where you're right sitting to have the opportunity to study medicine, like my speakers before me said. There's something special that you are starting right now, and I welcome you along this path. Look around you. There's a tremendous amount of outstanding physicians we've heard from in the last couple of days. I'm in awe of what they've done. I could list all the things they've done. It would take me all night to say what they've accomplished in developing countries all over the world, and I hope you can continue in their paths. And that brings me to my first point. There's an ancient Talmudic saying, I like quoting them, Aseh lecha rav. And loosely translated is make yourself a mentor. There are plenty of people in this room who could be your mentors, or outside of this room. But it's the value, and there's plenty of my mentors who are sitting right here in this room. The value will last the whole life. They've gone through what you've gone through. They can help you guide your career, and more importantly, that you can talk to them when things come up. There'll always be things that come up, and really take that. If people want to be here who teach in the medical school are available to you, and take advantage of that. The second point I want to make is something I learned from one of my mentors, Carmi. I don't know if he's, I don't want to... Carmi, okay, I'm going to tell a story. Is that all right if I tell a story? Shorter, but this story is true. I promise this story is true that I'm going to tell. We spoke about the central value of global health in our medical school, and that's really the reason we exist, what we strive for. On my blackboard in my office, I have the word global health. Very boldly printed, because everything I do, I want to take advantage of that message of global health. But medicine at its core is really, and I think Professor Zager mentioned, at its core is the interaction between the patient and the physician in the clinic, in the ER, in the operating room, or in the hospital. That's what we all do. That's the core of the medicine. And no matter what the color of the patient's skin is, whether they're rich or poor, educated or uneducated, that patient is feeling scared and vulnerable and wary about the future. And we're giving you this gift that maybe you'll be able to help that patient feel a little better about after they come out and see you. And that's something very special. And now my story. When I left America in 2001, well, I'll start before that. I had a patient. Her name was Barbara. She's really a very, very sweet lady, but very uneducated. She worked selling Cracker Jacks at Shea Stadium as an usher. And that was her profession, not a high-income profession. And she had diabetes. And for years, I was begging her to take medicine for her diabetes. And her hemoglobin A1C kept on going up. And she wouldn't take medicine. She refused it. Of course, insulin. And finally, after maybe 5 years, trying to convince her, showing her the data, discussing, she agreed to start the medication, glyburide, which is a sulfonylurea. And she started her medication. About 3 weeks later, I got a call on a Saturday night from the Cornell Hospital that my patient was hospitalized at Cornell Hospital with toxic epidermal necrolysis, which is her skin was peeling from the medication, presumably, that I gave her. It's a disease that has a 50% mortality, and she was in the hospital for months. And the only reason she survived is that somehow she got to the Cornell Hospital Burn Center, which is the best burn center in the world, because it's paid for by the New York City Fire Department. I don't know how she ended up in that hospital, in that burn unit. So what I was inevitably waiting for was the call from the lawyer or whatever, or the administrator. Again, it keeps you up at night thinking about what you did. Did I do right? Did I do wrong? And people are shaking their heads. Yes, sometimes that happens, that we'll be up at night worrying about our patients, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing. But remarkably, instead of calling the lawyer, she came back to see me as a patient. Months later, she showed up in my office, and she continued being my patient. And I never understood why she continued being my patient. So I continued taking care of her, and before I made Aliyah, I saw her one last time, and she gave me a note, and this is what she wrote. It's dated July 3rd, 2001. Now that my days as your patient are about to come to an end, I want to take this opportunity to let you know how much it has meant for me to be under your care. As you're well aware, I don't have a great deal of affection for most members of your profession. I've been fortunate enough to have had a couple of terrific doctors. You're definitely in that category. You have handled my various ailments, complaints, and occasional tirades with patience, understanding, and humor. That, as well as the fact that you have remained a Met fan despite their total collapse this season, is what impressed me the most about you. I will miss you a lot, as with Kim, my daughter. It will be difficult and sad to go to your office and not see you. We wish you and your family much success and happiness in your new life. Again, thank you for taking such good care of me. Okay, that's the letter I got. And I also got July 3rd, the day I saw her, I guess, 2001, has to be my birthday. And I got a birthday card. They brought it to my office. Dear Dr. Jacquez, I just want to say a special thanks for taking care of my mom and me. We will really miss you. Good luck in your new home, Kim. That's the name of her daughter. I think my wife's here. She just came. I think this is the only birthday card I've ever saved. I can't think of any other birthday card that I've saved. And for some reason, I saved this birthday card. And I think the reason is obvious. So that was my story with the patient.
She had been in the hospital for a month and her heart gave out on her. My father passed away 2 years ago as she was still grieving him. She became a grandmother in November, but it wasn't enough to keep her going. She'll never forget you and all you did for her. Thank you. And she signed her name. Again, this is 16 years later that I haven't seen this patient, and somehow that doctor-patient relationship had the strength to last for 16 years that her daughter sent me this email. So the point I want to make is we're giving you a gift to be a doctor. So take that gift and make it your own and continue to give the best care you can for all your patients, no matter where they are or when they are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professors Clarfield and Jodkiewicz. I'd like to invite students Benedict Munzar and Jonathan Sidlow to perform Amazing Grace. Where are they? The Physician's Oath ceremony, now an annual event at many medical schools around the world, originated in Israel at Ben-Gurion University Medical Center in 1974. When the late Professor Moshe Privis, founding Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences, decided that medical students should be sworn in at the beginning rather than the end of their medical training. In the tradition established by Professor Privis, students of the first year will now take the Physician's Oath. Usually, at this stage, I'd call upon Professor Emeritus Shimon Glick to administer the oath. However, this year it is my honour to ask soon-to-be Emeritus Professor Mark Clarfield to administer the oath in his first official act as the imminently retired head of the school.
Thank you, Mike. Before I ask you to rise, I just have to say something about the music because it's a hobby of mine. That was terrific. I really enjoyed it. And I don't know, I mean, I understand how you play guitar, but I don't understand how you play cello. There are no frets. How do you do that? And it's not often you get Eric Clapton and Pablo Casals on the stage here in Beersheba, so that was great. Really. Okay.
Oh. Students, please rise.
I hope you practice the 5 words at the end of this that you have to say. I don't want any stumbling. Ready? I'm going to read out the oath, and at the end you'll say your 5 proclamatory words. New physicians, you stand today in the presence of your teachers of medicine and its precepts. You enter into a covenant with medicine to fulfill its commitments to the best of your ability, with wisdom and integrity. That there may be established a generation of physicians motivated actively and dedicated faithfully to aid the suffering human being. This is the covenant into which I enter with you today. You are charged to stand at the side of the suffering individual day and night, at all times and at all hours. You shall protect human life maximally from the mother's womb and let its welfare ever be your chief concern. You shall help the ill, whether stranger, alien, or citizen of whatever social status. You shall seek to fathom the soul of those who are sick, to restore their spirit through understanding and compassion. Do not be hasty in judgment, but consider your advice carefully, tempering wisdom in the crucible of experience. Be faithful to those who put their trust in you. Do not reveal their secrets, nor act as a gossip. Honor and respect your teachers who have labored to guide you in the path of medicine. Guard the honor of your colleagues zealously, for their honor is your own. Increase wisdom, and do not become worn down by the struggle, for wisdom is your life, and it has the power to sustain life. Use your wisdom for the health of the public, as well as to bring healing to the ills of the community. May the words of this covenant be close and dear to you, articulated clearly, and felt deeply, that you may carry them out. And you will all respond,
Amen. We will act accordingly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Clarfield, Emeritus Professor Clarfield. I'd like to ask Professor Alan Jodkiewicz to introduce our guest speaker.
Pleasure to introduce Dr. Patrick O'Connor, an alumnus, a proud alumnus, I hope, of MSH. He's a team leader for accelerated disease control at the WHO Regional Office for Europe based in Denmark. Patrick's had various leadership and technical positions working on immunization and polio eradication with UNICEF, the WHO in New Delhi, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta. He graduated from MSH in 2003 and has an MPH from Johns Hopkins. He completed an internship in family medicine at Drexel University and a residency in general preventive medicine at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore. One of our alumni who are proud of the amazing work they're doing for the people in the world. Dr. O'Connor.
Get myself settled. So, thank you for inviting me, and welcome. Good evening, and I would like to say to thank all of the people that came tonight to see the class of 2022. First of all, I would like to thank everyone that helped facilitated my trip here to Beersheba. It's my great honor to be addressing you this evening as part of the white coat ceremony. It's hard for me to believe that 19 years ago I was sitting where you were at my white coat ceremony, and I do remember being nervous and anxious. But I think most importantly, I felt excited. And to let you know that that excitement has continued for nearly 2 decades. And so you are taking the first step down a very long path that will change the rest of your life. Your volume of knowledge will expand exponentially while you are here. And you will meet lifelong friends and get to live in a fascinating and culturally rich part of the world. You should take advantage of your time here because it will go by quicker than you think. And so when I was asked to come and speak tonight, I had some email correspondence with some of the faculty here and trying to decide what to talk about. So what I thought I would do is give you a very shortened version of the journey and some of the choices that I made after I left here. And what I'm hoping is maybe it will give you some inspiration and maybe some insight into what might be possible. I think I may be one of the only, at least members of my class, that have really taken a very, very global perspective on my career. And it may not be for everybody, but I think you should understand what maybe the outlier possibilities are for what can be done. And so I will say that the path has not been straight from where I am today, from when I graduated. And there's been a lot of twists and turns and detours. And I do have to concede that I have made some very unconventional choices, but I think they have served me well. So I'll start at the beginning. And so I graduated in May of 2003. And during my third year, I began to think about residency, which you guys will have to do at some point, and trying to figure out what would be a good fit. And sort of trying to think about that decision, I recalled a meeting with Carmi. So this is my Carmi story. And so, it was a great privilege that we had access to the dean at the time, who had interactions with us and met with us on a regular basis. And so at the beginning of my second year, he gave me some really great advice. And he said that it sounds like all the things that you've been doing and that you've been interested in the sort of first year of all of the work that you've been doing, you should think about getting an NPH, a Master's in Public Health. And so I had actually never even considered that. I don't even think I really even knew what it was at that time. And so what I did is I sort of tucked that advice away and that mentorship. And so at this point, I had a choice to make. And at this fork in the road, I decided that it would be the best thing to do is to wait for my residency for 1 year. And so I applied to a bunch of MPH programs. And in July of 2003, I started at Johns Hopkins. I selected the refugee and forced migration track. And I was again fortunate enough to have a great mentor in Dr. Robert Lawrence. He ended up being a really great help to me while I was at school, and then also beyond school. He helped me quite a bit after I graduated. And so while I was in Baltimore, I was doing a lot of the epi and biostats and other things, as well as the things that were required of the forced migration and refugee track. I was able to reconnect with a friend who works for the UN in New York on refugee issues. I invited her to speak at one of our lunchtime seminars. and she gave us a really compelling discussion about the refugee crisis that was currently happening in Darfur, in the Sudan. And after her visit, I was able to connect with a physician who was working at the International Rescue Committee. And while I was in school, they offered me a short-term assignment to help manage refugees in one of their health programs in Darfur. And so it was really an opportunity, one of those opportunities that I could not refuse. And so I delayed my residency for 1 year after I finished my MPH. And as soon as I graduated from Hopkins, I left for Darfur and spent the next 9 months working in refugee camps. I was paired up with clinicians that were focusing on patient care while I was working on preventive medicine activities, including immunization and outbreak disease control and response. I was particularly inspired by one of those doctors. He was a family doctor from Maine named Stephen Sokol. And at that point, I was convinced that maybe the best thing for me to do would be to do a family medicine residency. And so after my assignment in Darfur, I ended up at Drexel University in Philadelphia in their family medicine program. My internship year was filled with patient management and procedures and very little sleep. And as I finished my internship, I reflected on that, that very intense year, and I had learned a lot. But I came to the conclusion that I was not meant to be a family doctor. And so I was at another crossroads, and I had to make a decision. Should I continue with the family medicine program? Should I transfer into internal medicine and maybe do infectious diseases? Or should I look for something else? And so I went to Baltimore and met with my mentor at Hopkins, Dr. Lawrence. We sort of discussed all of the options and weighed a lot of the pros and cons. And at the end, I decided that I should transfer into the preventive medicine program. I had finished my clinical year. I had the MPH already. And so I just needed to complete the 3rd year of a practicum to be eligible to sit for the preventive medicine boards. But unfortunately, at this time, I had missed the application to do the transfer, and so I was sort of at the crossroads inside a crossroads. And so I would have to wait. And so it was, what to do was the question. I had been in contact with friends that I worked with at IRC, the International Rescue Committee, and I heard about a position that opened up in South Sudan. So while I was applying for the preventive medicine residency at Hopkins to do the transfer, I went to South Sudan and worked as their health coordinator, managing outbreaks and overseeing preventive services, planning immunization campaigns. Midway through my time in South Sudan, I was accepted into the general preventive medicine residency program at Johns Hopkins and left to go back to Baltimore. I arrived back in Baltimore, and I was sort of, again, nervous and anxious. That seems to be a theme. And, but again, excited. And so after all of those sort of twists and turns and detours, I asked myself the question, had I made the right choice? And I have to say I did with a resounding yes. I had found my tribe. I was looking for them, and they happened to be in Baltimore. It was a great fit for my skill set and the interests that I had and some of the work that I had already done. During that year, I ended up doing 4 really amazing rotations. One of them was with the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta, and I worked on a measles outbreak in Indonesia for 3 months, and that ultimately ended up in a job offer with their global immunization division. And so my first assignment with CDC was to work on polio eradication in Southeast Asia. I was detailed to the WHO regional office in Southeast Asia and moved to New Delhi, India. I helped with the interruption and the polio-free certification of the Southeast Asia region. And after nearly 5 years living in India, it was time for me to move on to my next assignment. I went back to Atlanta for a short period of time while I was waiting for my next assignment and worked on polio outbreaks in Syria and Iraq and South Sudan again. And at that point, I was detailed to work at the UNICEF headquarters in New York, again on polio eradication, and I spent nearly 2 years in Pakistan, focusing on developing immunization health camps in Karachi and Quetta and Peshawar. And that sort of brings us up to my current assignment, which you've heard a little bit about. And so for the past 3 years, I've been working at the WHO regional office on detail from CDC, living in Copenhagen. and I'm the team lead for accelerated diseases, where I've been focusing on supporting the 53 countries that are in the WHO European region to maintain their polio-free status and achieve measles and rubella elimination. So it took me 5 years to complete a 3-year residency program, but I also had 2 really intense field assignments in Sudan, which I think served me well. And I think despite all the twists and turns, I never lost sight of trying to find what was the best fit for me. I feel very, very lucky, and so far it has been an amazing journey, and I wouldn't change anything. So my path is extremely different than what I imagined when I sat in your seats in October of 1999. But I would say that the journey has been exciting, and most importantly, I think it's been interesting. I want to assure you that when you graduate from here, you will be extremely well prepared for the next phase of your career. I felt extremely confident that I had acquired the right skills, and that most importantly, the mentorship that I received here during my 4 years at BGU really has allowed me to be successful in my journey. I'd like to leave you with these final thoughts. This is the opportunity for you to find your tribe and to start your journey. You should absorb everything you can from this experience, not only academically, but also socially and culturally. You are going to be doing some amazing things that will not only change your lives, but the lives of others. I'm not sure what the next 2 decades are going to bring for me, but I think that's okay. I plan to continue to make interesting and exciting choices, and I would say that's my advice to you. You should do the same. So finally, I would like to say thank you again. It has been my honor to be here with you this evening. I really enjoyed being back in Beersheba. I would like to wish you the best of luck at the beginning of your journey, and you will get the only Hebrew that I really remember is B'Hatzlaha.
Permit me to go off script for a moment. I've been doing this for 10 years, and every year I'm just more amazed by what our graduates have managed to do throughout the world. It's just astonishing to hear where you've been and what you've done. And as I say, multiply that by the 570 graduates who have come out of this school, and it is really quite remarkable. In a sense, I envy you too. Okay, so Ellie Bernstein, I'm pleased to invite you to give the class address.
Thing on? Hi everyone, shalom lekulam, bruchim habayim. My name is Eli, and I am very honored to be here tonight to address you all. So first, a very warm welcome to our families and friends who are in attendance here tonight and also watching at home. Thank you all for your love, support, and devotion as you've borne with us through this crazy process of getting here to medical school. I also want to warmly welcome our distinguished guests. Thank you all for being here with us tonight, as well as our administration, faculty, and students from other classes. Thanks so much for accepting us as students here, guiding us through the beginning of this journey, and of course planning this event. Finally, welcome to my colleagues, peers, and most importantly my dear friends, the Medical School for International Health class of 2022. How lucky I am to have such an impressive group of peers in medical school. So if you'll all indulge me, I'd like to tell you just a bit about my classmates. We're 27 souls in all. We hail from 6 different countries, 8 different US states, and 2 Canadian provinces. We speak between us 9 different languages. languages. We range from strictly religious to strictly secular, and we're from a few different faith backgrounds. Some of us are Israeli, some of us are in Israel for the first time. We have classmates over the age of 33 and under the age of 23. Some of us just finished our undergraduate degrees, and still others had prior careers in accounting, the armed forces, and even agriculture. Our extracurricular endeavors range from athletics to cooking to painting, and just about everything in between. So, what are the 27 of us doing here together in Beersheba, some of us quite far from home? We're certainly united by a desire to engage in the science of medicine and in the art of healing. But if that was all we had in common, I think you'd probably find classes like ours at every medical school. And I think you'd actually be hard-pressed to find any class like ours anywhere else. Even saying that we're here to become global health practitioners doesn't quite capture what I think makes us unique. So I'm going to propose something different. I'd like to propose that what brings us here together specifically is a shared sense of adventure. What I mean is, we could have all chosen to remain in the countries we came from, perhaps working a cushy office job or even attending medical school in those countries, closer to home. Undoubtedly, there are paths to success that require significantly less upheaval than moving to the middle of the desert to study medicine. And yet, here we all are. Those paths were not for us. Perhaps that same sense of adventure drove some of you, my classmates, to finally visit a homeland you left 2 decades ago, or to administer a women and children's health program in the middle of the Sahara. It's why you took those college courses in Arabic, or you backpacked across 3 continents in 8 months. The same sense of adventure, perhaps, is what drove a few of you to agree to wake up early on a Friday morning a few weeks ago and hike the En-Gedi with me, and maybe has led others of you to try and cook something funky and new at one of our many recent class potlucks. So when you've had a long night poring over your textbooks and notes, when your hands hurt from writing and typing, when your eyes begin to glaze over, trying to distinguish between Brucella and Bruce Larkin, our esteemed classmate, remember what brought you here. Those long nights are part and parcel of our adventure, as difficult as they might be. And when it comes time to complete your elective clinical clerkships and later to choose a residency, let the same sense of adventure guide you. Even if that's towards the more challenging path, let your experiences here remind you what you're capable of. Stay the course, and no doubt we'll all accomplish something special. Thank you once again to everyone who has helped us on our path to getting here. And of course, a huge congratulations to my friends in the class of 2022. Looking forward to the next 4 years with all of you. And I can't wait to see what adventures are in store.
Thank you, Eli. I'd like to invite Kamal Kaur and Daniel Iluz Freundlich to read the class honor code.
Okay, so I'm about to read our ethical code, and this code was inspired by Wear Sunscreen by Mary Smick and from the stories of our class. And it goes like this. If we could offer one tip to our future selves as physicians, it is this: prescribe the right medications. Both the immediate and long-term benefits of prescribing the right medications have been scientifically proven. The rest of our advice relies simply on our own unique but meandering experience.
Don't feel guilty if you don't know exactly what drove you to medicine. At a certain point, you may realize that medicine is not simply a profession, but a calling. One that might bring you overseas, maybe even around a fire with a young Kuwaiti freedom fighter. He'll clutch his loaded weapon and tell stories of foreign occupation. At this point, you'll realize you left your comfortable home and crossed an ocean to help strangers save theirs. Give high fives to your child patients. Draw simple diagrams for the adult. Let them share in your knowledge. Empower them with understanding about their bodies and themselves. Traffic in metaphysics. Talk to God. Whether you believe in God or not, it may help to get to know a key source of hope and purpose for many of your patients and colleagues. Leave space for meaning and mystery in medicine. Allow yourself the discomfort of changing your mind and accepting alien truths. You will face unreasonable, irrational, and self-centered thinkers. Work with them anyways. You will learn something. Lead by example. As it has been said, the good you do today will often be forgotten tomorrow. But do it anyways. It inspires others and permits them to do good in turn.
Get to know your patients. Observe them holistically, and do not be reckless with their concerns. Each is a story waiting to unfold. Be generous with time, resources, and kind words, for you will be a patient too. Appreciate those moments when you're a patient yourself. Notice how difficult it is to trust another with your health and well-being. Recognize your expertise and allow those moments to deepen your respect of your patient's own expertise. There is much empathy to be learned. Embrace the gap between what you are and what you aspire to be. Keep in mind that your internal dissatisfaction might be the most accurate moral compass in self-improvement. Believe in your ability to change, and know that you might not think it's possible until it has already happened. Bring home the compliments, flowers, and thank you letters you receive. Leave behind the stress from the words. And if you succeed in doing so, tell us how.
Don't be afraid of challenges to both your body and mind. Think of trekking in the hills of Kathmandu in the heavy summer rain while standing above the clouds. Remember the mountains you hope to climb, especially those in the field of medicine. Fight for social justice. Recall the hardships endured by your friends, patients, and colleagues, simply because they were born into less fortunate circumstances than your own. Remember the injustice that ensues when society believes that some lives matter less than others. Do not be oppressed by this weight. Enjoy each small step you accomplish in the pursuit of justice.
We recognize that we are unqualified to tackle the question of what ethical rules should guide the practice of all physicians, but we know what guides us. So you can be sure about one thing. We will try and prescribe the right medications.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kamal and Danielle. Jonathan and Benedict, could I ask you to get yourself to, so that you don't get uncomfortable again, maybe you want to prepare yourselves in advance whilst I pass over to Professor Jodkovich, who's going to close our ceremony.
That was inspiring. You guys are also inspiring. That was beautiful. We say in Hebrew, Acharon Acharon Chaviv. Not sure exactly, but the last is the most important. So we've been celebrating the last couple of days, the 20th anniversary of MSIH. And I want to close officially this ceremony by thanking the most important people at MSIH, besides the students, is the administrative staff who have worked tirelessly, really just for the benefit of you guys, the students, and they help us do our jobs. We couldn't do our jobs without them. And some of them have been in the school for almost 20 years, the whole life of the school. I'd like to thank Sharon Dagan, who for 18 years has scheduled every class at MSIH, dealt with every canceled lecture by a physician, dealt with changes, room changes, cats in the classroom, projectors that don't work, computers that break, really with dedication, working here all days, Fridays, late at night sometimes, so I want to thank her. And she's been one of our, Miss Amanda Yiftachel, who I think is in the school for also 18 years. And the care she takes in preparing the dean's letters and helping the students apply for the match is unbelievable. Again, she does it all days and hours of the night in different continents. I've been in touch with her from Australia in the middle of the night, helping a student who needs a letter of recommendation loaded when I have no idea what to do. And that's nothing to do with her job. That's she does it, I think, because of the love and caring for the students. Miss Lynn Conroy, who also works days and nights, Fridays, weekends, to help make sure the students get their student loans on time, and it's a question of money to eat for some students that she works. She brings me these papers of the guidelines of the student loans. I don't understand the word that's written there, even though English, and she's sometimes able to figure out what to do, and again, just does it to help the students. I think they're our longest serving members of the staff. I also like the staff who's been here shorter. Miss Gabby Koren, who will do anything to help a student who needs help. Miss Anat Zer, who elegantly coordinates all these parties that we have, all these celebrations, all the retirement parties. I was wondering who's going to coordinate her retirement party. We're going to have to close the school when she goes. Maybe she'll do mine in another 15 years. Ms. Alana Shub, who also works, she's coordinates all the exams. It's a difficult position because to deal with the exams, but she does it with competence and professionalism, and also here coordinating exams. She has young children at home, but she'll be here at 9 o'clock at night when I'm home to make sure an exam goes well. Anna Spivkovsky, who does everything in the school with a smile, and I never heard her say no to any request that anyone had of her. I don't know if anyone liked that. Will do anything to help a fellow staff member, a student. We come to her when all the problems, and she'll fix all the problems. Leora Koren, who takes care of all the students who are away in electives, and then to send them all these different countries, the coordination, the languages, the Google Translate she uses to do these clerkships is really an amazing job, and she does it with dedication. Ms. Amit Frank, who takes, all of you guys know, who from the minute you're accepted, hopefully till the end of the first year, takes care of all the needs, all the problems that you have, everything that comes up, again with a smile and dedication. Also, I'd like to say our newest staff member, Roe Hill Cohen, who joined the staff, who's working with Alana in the exam unit. And of course, I'd like to thank our administrators of the school, our founding administrator, Stavi Baram. I don't know if Stavi's here, but okay, maybe she's, I'm not sure if she's here, but anyway, I'd like to thank her. Mike Diamond, who followed her and returned to the school. And of course, our current administrator, who also is unbelievable, the work she does, the dedication she does. I know she's planning to come to work tomorrow. We're all going to be home. She's going to be in her office doing work just because she's dedicated to the program. MSA is just for Ms. Leora Nowie. So I'd like to thank everyone. And I just welcome back David Arnstein, who's here, who recently retired. His retirement party, but I think I got I also like to thank the office in New York for everything they do. You guys have their interaction with them, led by Dr. Quatel, who does an amazing job, dedicated to you guys, who will also deal with any problem that comes up. Lenore Toplitsky, Kelly Coleman, Beth Chesser, and Victoria King. Some of them are here, some are not. But again, all these people I think anyone who works at MSA just, I don't know, it sort of sounds trite, but it's not really a job. I think everyone is dedicated to the mission. And part of what we do, if we can take care of that patient in India, in Southeast Asia, in Africa, wherever our students are, and they're all over the world. I don't know how many countries our students are, but it really has to do with the dedicated staff here at MSA. So I just want to thank them all. I want to thank you students for coming. I also want a special shout out to your parents who, in a way, I supported you. It's not, I know myself, it's not easy to send a child, children anymore, but anyway, overseas, some of them could be here, some of them could not be here. But also, I think for many of you, the rock behind you that supports them, and also the partners and children you have also deserve support because they're partners with us in making you the best physicians you can. Okay, I look forward to the next 20 years of this great school at MSIH, and I thank you all for coming. Yes.
Thank you, Professor Jodkiewicz. We're going to finish the ceremony with the singing of Israel's national anthem, Hatikva, and I understand our friends are going to be accompanying us, and I'm going to move away from the microphone so that you can't hear my voice.
Nefesh
Thank you. That concludes our ceremony. Thank you very much for coming, participating tonight.